Most e-commerce brands treat SEO like a short-term project rather than a long-term product. But just like your creative flywheel or your retention marketing, SEO is a product with owners, roadmaps, iterations, and of course, measurable outcomes over the lifetime of your e-commerce brand. And the brands that are winning at SEO right now know this better than anyone. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how this mindset shift has unlocked tens of millions of dollars in organic revenue for brands working with our agency over the last 4 years. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, the difference between projects and products is quite clear. Projects have deadlines, products have life cycles, okay? Treating SEO like said product means you are actually focused on iteration, performance, and scalability, not just task completion, okay? I made a video last week that says, that I said like pretty much like ripping checklists, right? And checklists are one element of project-based SEO, okay? You just check a box. You're not checking a box on a product that you're building. Like the product you're actually selling to customers, you are not just checking a box saying, oh yeah, we got this done, we got this done, we got this done. Now it's done, right? No. A good e-commerce brand is iterating over that product, improving on feedback, improving on what's learned to make it a better product and a more scalable product, okay? The same thing goes for SEO. I talk to probably like 50 to 100 prospects a month or brands a month in, discovery calls, consulting, brands I work with, all that kind of stuff, okay? Now, many of these brands do not understand this, okay? They do not understand why it's product-based, not project-based. And there's kind of two reasons for this. The first is that they're viewing SEO as a short-term expense, okay? They think I invest in SEO for 6 months, maybe 12 months, and then I'm good to go forever, right? If the lifetime of your brand is only 12 months in the future, then yeah, sure, right? But most people are going to be running their brand well beyond a year in the future. So a short-term investment or viewing it as a short-term cost already puts you at a deficit to the brands you're competing against because they're viewing it as a long-term investment and consistent channel that is always going to be a part of their brand growth, okay? So that's kind of the first part, right? Now, the other thing with projects that brands think about too when they think about the short-term cost is like, okay, how many blogs am I going to get? How many, links am I going to build? All that kind of stuff, right? And a lot of brands get frustrated with this. And I have honestly turned down a handful of brands. I've even fired brands for kind of this part of the dialogue, right? And it's like, well, I understand if I'm paying this much, like why am I getting a variable amount of blogs each month or a variable amount of links or, why are we doing this instead of this? And the reason is that like they're asking those questions because they're stuck in a project-based mindset, right? They think, if we write 4 blogs and we build 5 links for, a year, all of a sudden that's just going to put them in number one spot on Google, right? That's not true. That will be true in probably less than 1% of any case on earth, okay? When we bring on a brand, we build out 6 months of a strategy, okay? That strategy is based on what we currently know and what we assume is going to be true based on kind of the initial phase of execution, okay? However, every single month we are auditing our strategy and auditing performance to see if there's anything we can change, okay? Most strategies we work on typically involve a lot of bottom of funnel optimization at the beginning of a campaign, okay? So product pages, collection pages, like the first month to 2 months, depending on how big the brand catalog is, we'll front load a lot of those optimizations. That way we can, using the data we have, we make a lot of those optimizations and changes. And then 1 or 2 months in, we've got more data and we can decide if it's working or not. And then we can allocate more resources towards it or change direction, right? So we're looking to get feedback and kind of trying to validate kind of what's working or not, what's not working so that we can scale further on, right? Now, if I just said, hey, I'm going to write you 4 blogs and 5 links a month and you're going to pay me X amount of dollars, I'm more of an intern than I am an agency, right? I don't have any, you could pay anyone on Fiverr, on Upwork or whatever. If you want to write 4 blogs a month and build 5 backlinks, you don't need me. You could do that in-house. You could pay anyone else on earth to do that, okay? The benefit of providing of an agency and like the product-based model of SEO is that we're constantly looking at data and constantly looking at ways to improve. Sometimes that may mean instead of building these collection pages or instead of writing these blog posts, we're actually going to build these collection pages because you have more traction, more momentum here, and we believe it'll make you more money sooner, right? If that's the case, surely you'd want to make more money sooner, more than you would give a damn about, 4 blog posts just for the sake of writing 4 blog posts, right? I fired clients. Like I said, I fired a client 2 months ago for the exact same reason, right? They're like, well, why aren't we getting, 8 backlinks a month or whatever, right? And I was like, well, because we built 6 really good ones and we hit our budget. And instead we allocated the rest of our budget to collection pages, which also you now rank in the top 3 results for. They didn't like that. So I let them go, right? Now, they were viewing it and had been viewing it for the entirety of our relationship project-based. They're like, okay, like, internally, I presume the discussion was something along the lines of like, okay, did the agency, write our blogs? Did they build links? All that kind of stuff, right? Never once, not never once, very rarely were they interested in how much revenue was generated or how many new rankings we had in the number 1 spot. They just they were very checklist based in things. And that's a mindset that is absolutely destined to fail. Okay. Work with another brand as well. They'd work with 2 agencies for the entirety, each for a year. They worked with us for 3 months. We made more revenue in those 3 months than they'd made in the previous 2 years combined. And because at 1 month in a row, or 1 month, we delivered 2 backlinks fewer than we said because we had adjusted the amount of collection pages we had built. And I told them that. They still were unhappy that we didn't build enough quote unquote backlinks, to their liking, despite them making more money than they'd ever made from SEO. Same thing, like the relationship ended very, very quickly. And that's fine. That's some brands operate that way, some don't. That brand for sure is likely not going to succeed in the long term over SEO because they're always viewing it as a cost with a checklist, right? They don't care about, they did not seem to care about the data we were showing that said, hey, we can make more money here on a shorter term. They just were like, okay, we want a blog. Okay, like if you want to pay me that kind of money to write blogs, like I could do that, but you're not going to make any money and there's no reason for you to be doing that at all, right? So that kind of project-based mindset stalls out sooner than later, right? If you think, X amount of blogs, X amount of links are going to get you to the next, number 1 spot, like you're sorely mistaken, okay? A lot of people will do this, whether they try it in-house, whether they try a freelancer, an agency the first time, they'll just optimize all their pages once, they'll start writing blogs, and then they just assume things are going to work out for them. Product-based mindset means you are doing all of those things, but you're also constantly analyzing and iterating based on what you have learned, okay? Project-based doesn't leave a lot of room for agility. It just, you assume things are going to work, and that you can never assume things are going to work, okay? So a product-based SEO is owned all the time. A project is handed off. It's a checklist, right? So when SEO is treated like a product, like it is in our case at our agency, we are responsible for the actual outcomes of the strategy, not just the deliverables kind of attached to it, right? Now, we charge a premium for our services, right? And that is partly because of the way we view SEO. You can go find anyone on Fiverr or some cheap agency online you'll pay $1,000 and they'll just write you blogs, right? Technically, they're fulfilling their end of the deliverables. However, you're also paying them such a low amount that you could never possibly expect them to be also responsible for the outcomes, right? You've paid them for A, B, C, and D. You have not at all paid them for how A, B, C, and D are going to lead to an increase in revenue, okay? So that's kind of the core premise of why product versus project-based SEO works so well. And there are definitely, you're doing technical SEO, you're doing a migration. Like there is a time and place for project-based SEO, but if you're looking at an e-commerce brand and you're trying to grow your SEO, you have to view it as a product, not as a project, just like any other channel you would, okay? You don't do email marketing for a few months and assume it's done. You don't stop producing creative because you assume you have enough, right? You're constantly improving on it. You're constantly iterating and you're constantly making more money as a result of doing it, okay? So in terms of SEO, let's get into some more like the details of product-based stuff, okay? You need a roadmap, okay? I'm not saying like product-based is like every single month you decide what you're doing. No, like you should have a long-term plan. You should just also be willing to adjust that plan based on the learnings of the last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever it may be, okay? You should be building in features of the strategy rather than just line items, okay? So content clusters, collection pages, link building, page optimizations, whatever it may be, right? You're not just doing it all at once and just letting it go. Like you're shipping them, you're publishing, building links, whatever it may be. and you are iterating feedback over time. You're also probably not doing it all at once because you want to see how individual features you're shipping, let's call it, are impacting the strategy, right? If you build a ton of collection pages, you optimize a ton of collection pages, whatever, and you also go ahead and build 20 links, and you also go write 20 blogs all on the same day, hypothetically, going to be very difficult to visualize what is most impactful. So if you sequence or like segment them out, you can gain data in between the days of those shipped features, and you can figure out what, like if you ship 3 different things in, 2 weeks, you can figure out which of those was the most impactful and at which time. That way, if one of the 3 things was a clear winner, you could just do more of that because that's going to lead to greater momentum and greater growth and obviously more money. Okay. Again, back to the product thing. You are prioritizing here for outcomes, not for deliverables. Just like when you make a product, like an e-com, like an actual D2C product, not every single feature you make or want is going to make it into your final sellable product. Okay. Just the same way as SEO, not every keyword you find, blog post you write, or technical fix you identify actually either needs to get done or is going to lead to a measurable improvement. Okay. There are a lot of blog posts you should never write as an e-commerce brand. And there are a lot of keywords that you may think are good that in fact will not have any tangible increase or benefit to your revenue. Okay. So in that case, like you need to discard those things. Checklists don't allow for that, right? They assume you're going to cover everything and they just do that without giving it a second thought. Okay. We are building strategies here for the long term and a scalable, like we're building long-term scalable strategies. Okay. When you build out, systems within a brand, within a website, internal linking, site architecture, if you're doing like programmatic SEO, those things are not like a set it and forget it type thing, right? You are building actual systems to enable that to scale over time so that it can benefit the rest of the strategy and it can also be benefited by the rest of the strategy. Okay. If you do it as a checklist, it's one or more items are just simply going to lag behind the rest of the site. Okay. You don't want that. Okay. The other thing with product mindset is that you're constantly updating your expectations and your KPIs to reflect your current business status and also current or future business, either goals or objectives or projections, however you want to think about that. Okay. If you set a checklist and you finish it, and then 6 months later, you've not done anything, like, okay, well, you should be expecting more in 6 months. Ideally, your brand is growing. But if you did a checklist 6 months ago, are you just going to do the checklist again? Like that doesn't make any fucking sense. Like you need to be updating this alongside your current business growth so that all the channels are in line. Okay. You're not optimizing for blog traffic or, on page metrics, like anything like that, right? Like you should be really optimizing for organic search revenue, customer trust, your CAC, your lifetime value, all those kinds of things are going to play a much greater role into the future of your SEO strategy. Definitely more so than they will be playing a role in the early part of your strategy. But I just dropped a video last week about like how to view different KPIs at different segments of your different like segments of your kind of SEO growth, like months 1 to 3, months 4 to 6, and then month 6 and on, right? If you're still stuck in month 1 to 3 KPIs and you're 12 months into an SEO campaign, well, the numbers aren't going to make a lot of sense and you're not really going to know what to do with the data, right? So the metrics you measure and also how you measure them need to evolve alongside the strategy you build. Okay. The other thing too, like with project-based and like the short-term cost kind of ideology of SEO that a lot of brands unfortunately have is that SEO always will be viewed as kind of a disconnect, right? Like I can't tell you how many brands I've worked with for many, many months, if not years at a time. And, it takes them a very long time to build the SEO into their kind of brand engine, let's call it. Okay. A lot of brands are like, okay, yeah, we're launching this, a lot of brands will like launch a new product or like launch, do all these other marketing campaigns across, email, paid, whatever. And then 2 months later, they'll be like, oh yeah, we launched this new product. Like, didn't you hear about it? And like, no, but had I known you were launching a new product, I could have built out an entire roadmap to help you grow it faster earlier on. And there's always a very big disconnect in SEO. And typically it's the result of if you work with an agency, like it's sometimes hard to tie in a bunch of agencies into your product roadmap, right? I get that. The other thing too is like they just like I said, they're viewing it as a cost. It's like, okay, we're just gonna keep doing this for a little bit. It's like no need to really update them on how it works. Wrong. When you tie in every single channel, as anyone in e-commerce would know, the benefits are exceptionally compounding, right? So you want to make sure it's tied into the rest of the brand. Okay. It also helps you over time get buy-in from other teams, like, paid media, creative, like retention, UX teams, CRO teams, all that kind of stuff. Like if you're getting buy-in from all channels at once, you're going to be making a better brand. And as marketing, your product is going to be so much better. Okay. And one last thing here is like just kind of to put a bow on this, like if you view SEO as a project, it is extremely unlikely that you are going to see the growth that you wish to see. It is more likely than not that you will just invest money. You will spend money, a couple thousand a month for the next 6 months, and then you will stop spending that money. And I would make the assumption that you are going to be unhappy that you spent the money at all. Okay. If you're going to do SEO, don't half-ass it. Invest in a good team, in-house, agency, freelancer, whatever. But you have to view it as a product that gets iterated over time, not just something that you're going to only spend money on for a few months and then be done with it. Okay. If you're only going to spend money on it for a few months, just don't spend it at all. Okay. If you want to make SEO work and make it a viable revenue channel, like revenue driving channel for your brand, view it as a product, view it as a long-term kind of line item on your P&L, and let it grow. See you in the next video.